Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. First of all, we are going to have an overview of accounts payable. Accounts payable is a liability or either external supplier or internal stakeholder. Let's take a look at accounts payable process. First of all, business has a need. For example, business wants to purchase some raw material like wood. A purchaser creates a requisition for 100 woods. The purchaser manager reviews the purchase requisition and agrees that yes, business needs 100 woods to continue production, so he approves the purchase requisition. Next, for example, we have a vendor in our system already, and every time we order wood from this preferred supplier, because the price has been pre-agreed, so the purchase order of 100 woods created and sent to our preferred supplier. Next, because now we have the woods in our warehouse and we can process our vendor invoice, let's assume that our payment terms are net 30 days, so we have 30 days to pay this vendor. Payment normally occurs via electronic transfer, check or wire. The payment process go itself automatically when the payment program already got set up in SAP. The last two steps done by accounts payable team exclusively when the invoice document is created and the vendor paid for the goods. We can run the reports throughout the entire process. For example, the reports can be by individual supplier or by invoice due date. The general ledger keeps updating when all postings are going on from accounts payable team, so the reports can run to keep records of all items whether they are open or closed. Accounts payable is totally integrated with other areas of SAP. The purchasing area of the material management, including purchase requisition, purchase orders, good receipts and inventory, and warehouse management, information from all these areas automatically flows to the accounts payable. For example, a material receipt in warehouse automatically updates the vendor account balance in accounts payable. Accounts payable also integrated with general ledger reconciliation accounts. When a supplier paid, then the payment document is created. This document is automatically posted in the general ledger reconciliation account. A general ledger clearing document is created. Let's create a supplier in SAP by using the master data. Let's enter BP in the search bar and press enter. I will click the locator on off button because the locator is used to search and we want to create a new supplier. Next, I will click on organization because the supplier we are creating is an organization. The system gives us a message in status bar to choose the business partner role. This is extremely important as this selection determines what information our supplier we can edit. I will click the drop down and create in BP role and select supplier financial accounting. A warning note says, do you want to create business partner in BP role supplier financial accounting, or do you want to save it first in BP role business partner gen and then change it? Data already entered is not saved during creation. We did not add any data, so we will click on create. By default, there are only 5 required fields. We have not filled them before when we create a supplier account. We will fill them now. First is name. I enter West Penn Hardware. Next one, we scroll down for postal code and I enter postal code 15203 and city Pittsburgh. Next, the country is the US and we need to select communication language. I select English. You can fill any of the additional field, it may be helpful for you. Now you can see that we have 10 tabs going across the screen. Each may or not be important to fill for an organization. Because we are on supplier financial accounting role, so we have vendor general data, vendor tax data and vendor text fields. The vendor general data allows us to enter more information specific about the supplier. The vendor text data allows us to add text information, and the vendor text field we can add specific text notes about the supplier. We will not change any of these fields right now, and we will just save the supplier by clicking on the save button bottom right on the screen. We have an information message at the bottom showing us that this supplier has been created and assigned a static number, but we are not done yet. To be able to use the supplier accounts payable process, we have to extend our supplier to a company code. After we save, the company code button at the header bar became active. Let me click on it, and it shows the display newly created business partner on the screen. The system has puts us on to the display mode, and we cannot edit it any other field on the screen. I'm going to click on switch between display and change button, and system will put us back into the change mode screen. The highlighted on the top shows us that we are on the change mode screen, and we can edit the fields. On the company code field, I type 1000 and press enter. Now I can also update the reconciliation account field below that has become active. Now I click on the magical button, it pops up a window, and it is only a company supplier account, and the way it is configured, my only option is accounts payable. I double click that code and I click save at the bottom. The system verifies me that the changes has been saved. From the accounts payable perspective, the vendor is set up. There is another business partner role that needs to be set up so we can actually make a purchase from the supplier. Change in BP role, we will click on the drop down and we will select as supplier. Next, we will click on the button of purchasing at the top of the screen. We have to assign the supplier to purchasing organization. We want to extend the supplier to purchasing organization 1000. So I enter 1000 and press save in the bottom. We can see the change in BP role from supplier to supplier defined, and this business partner role has been defined and ready to use. Let's maintain the business partner transaction to edit a business partner account information. To do this, we will write the code in the search bar as BP and we will press enter. Once we are in the transaction, we can search using the name of our supplier, or if we have supplier number like I do, I can enter into the locator area and I want to find the business partner by using its number. I write 1000290, then press start and then double click on the business partner code. Now I can close the locator portion of the screen by pressing the locator on off button. In the change in BP role, we want to change the financial information of the supplier. So from the drop down list, we will select supplier financial accounting defined. This supplier has provided us with the bank information, so we can make a wire payment. We need to add the information into the master records here. So I click payment transaction tab. In the city column, I write US and the next column bank key. Press the magical button to search the possible bank keys. The bank country is US, then press continue. We will choose Chase Manhattan bank key by double clicking. The bank key has been populated. The next field, we need to add the bank account number, and after the bank account we need to add control key. We will enter 01 because it is a checking account. The IBAN number is the international banking number and it is not necessary for us. And now we will click on save. The bank information now has been saved. Now we will change the payment terms of this supplier. We need to click on more and click on the company code. From this screen, we will click on vendor payment transaction tab. Now we will click on the magical button to see what types of terms we have. We have 36 different possible payment terms. For this supplier, we will click on net 30. Let's find and double click on net 30, which stands for within 30 days due net, and we will press enter and save from the bottom of the screen. Our payment terms has been updated for the supplier and the supplier has been maintained. Now we will create an invoice with an existing purchase order. To do so, we need to write in the search bar MIRO and press enter. In our case, the purchase order already created in the system. Purchase order physically received by supplier and goods received document also been created in the system. So now we need to create an invoice from the existing purchase order. As you can see, the transaction field has the value invoice, which is exactly what we need to do now. Next, we will move down to fill up the data for this invoice. In the invoice date field, we will enter the date of invoice was created. Click on the magical button and choose the date. We will choose here 29 March. Next is the reference field where you can put the supplier invoice number, which is very important to search in future by the supplier invoice number. We will write here the reference of the supplier invoice. The posting date is the today's date, which I will leave as it is as default, but it is editable. Now we need to add the amount of this invoice. However, we will skip and make sure the purchase order value matches with the invoice amount. From the PO reference tab, the field purchase order / scheduling agreement, we will keep it same as we are referring the purchase order to create an invoice. So on the next field, we will write the purchase order number, and after writing the purchase order number, we will press enter. Now we will see all the line items of the purchase order populated. The amount $61.5 for quantity of 50 pieces. You can see at right up the vendor information is also populated. This vendor is Indiana Supply Company. You can also see this vendor has also bank information with the bank key. Looking back at the top of the screen, red light, which shows the message incorrect because our balance is negative $61.5. Now go back to our amount field and enter 61.5 and press enter. And now you can see the light at the top is green, and when we put our cursor on it, it says posted, can be posted, and the balance is 0. Now you can post this invoice. Go to the status bar down and click on post. The status bar shows the message that invoice has been successfully posted. Now we will create an invoice without a purchase order reference. We need to write transaction code FB60 and press enter. In our case, we will usually having a purchase order and complete process of invoice creation with purchase order. Let's assume we have a physical invoice in our hand and we are going to make a direct journal entry. So we need to create an invoice in SAP. As you can see, our transaction field is already have selected as invoice, so nothing to change in this field. Now we will go to fill up the data of this invoice. In this case, we will manually enter the vendor number in the vendor field, which is 173000001. And in the invoice date field, we will click on the field and we will press the magical button to select the date field. So we will select today's date. The next field is reference field, which is the vendor invoice number. We need to enter this data correctly, so in future we can search the invoice number by vendor, so it is be easy for us to find. The posting date field is auto-populated with the today's date. This is editable, but I need to post it today, so I have it as default. Now I press enter The system reads the information and vendor information populated on the upright side. This vendor is Indiana Supply Company. All of the account information of this vendor is present already in the system. So we can proceed. Now we need to add the amount of this invoice. Let's assume our company owes this vendor 1,000 US dollar. I enter 1,000 US dollar and press enter. If you look at the top right on the screen, we have negative balance and red warning light. When move cursor on it, it says balance not equal to 0. System is warning us that we are going to pay this supplier, but the system doesn't know from which general ledger we are going to pay this amount. To fix this, go down on the first line item, GL account field. We need enter here account number. We are going to write the GL account number, and after writing this, we are going to press enter. And on the next field, as you can see here, the short text field is other payables NRA account, which is going to be debit. And the next field shows D/C field, which is debit. And after that, on the next field, we are going to write amount in DOC currency, which is 1,000 US dollar. And we are going to press enter. Again, if you look at the top right, there is a green light and the balance is 0. When I move cursor on it, it says balance equals 0. The system is saying that this invoice is correct and we can post it by going down on the right and pressing the post button. The status bar down shows us the message that invoice is successfully posted. Now we are going to discuss the accounts payable reports SAP. Let's look at the vendor line item reports. To do this, we need to enter transaction code on the search bar S_ALR_870121103 and press enter. This takes us to the list of vendor line item selection screen. We are going to run this for a specific vendor, and I scroll down to the screen to the line item selection area, and I want to run this report for all items. So we need to make sure the radio button on all items clicked. And finally, we will move down to the layout. So I will enter here in the layout field LI. This is the layout I have created so we can see the data in this report easily. Now I press the bottom button, execute. You can see the information on the top are about supplier like name and address. We will scroll down and see the line item of this vendor. The first column is assignment, comes from the reference field where you have put it the supplier invoice number. The second column is the posting date, is the date of posting entry. Now if you see, the fourth and the fifth column are the document number and document date column. Looking at the last amount in LC is the amount of invoice in local currency. This column tells us the value of each line item. Now we will see the bottom of the report. We have for this vendor total balance 581,454.70 USD. In other words, this is the total money we have paid to this vendor. This is one way to see the accounts payable report. To see the other available reports, we will head over to the easy access of the SAP screen. To do this, I press exit and exit again. From this screen, we will use the menu tray. We will choose accounting and then financial accounting. Next, click on accounts payable and next information system, and now expand reports. For accounts payable accounting, each of these folder contains different types of accounts payable reports. First, we will expand vendor balance. We can see here 6 reports related to the balances. The vendor items folder has 7 reports related to accounts payable. The master data folder has reports of directly related to the business partners. And the finally payment transactions folder has 4 reports which are actual payments that has checks. Thanks and good luck.